Hello, everyone, and welcome to How Do I Get Started Networking? I'm Dorothy Baumgartner, and I'm here with my colleague, Christy Graham. And we've got lots of great strategies and tips to help you get started networking. We're going to start kind of at the beginning. What is networking and why is it important? And then we're going to spend most of our time on how do I do it and kind of break that down into several sections. One is polishing your professional brand. What are some things to be thinking about so that you are presenting that professional image that you want to be presenting out there? And then how do I actually build a network and generate leads and participate in career activities, for example? And then how do I have those career conversations? What does that look like and how do I prepare for it? And then we'll talk about some next steps. So let's jump in. What is the buzz about networking and why is it so important? So the first thing I want to ask you though is we've got a little audience participation, if you will, play along with us here today. What is it when you think of the term networking? What is it that you think about? What comes to mind? Anything is great. Connecting. All right. Building connections and relationships. Connecting with like professionals. Thanks for all of that. And how do you feel about it? Y'all excited to do it? Everybody ready to jump in? Anybody a little hesitant about it? You're excited to do it. That's great. And thumbs up. I'm not sure where the thumbs up is. That yes, you're excited to do it, or are you a little hesitant about it? Awkward. Okay. Yep. Nervous and excited. Okay. Great. Thanks for all of those. People have lots of different reactions to the idea of networking, and some people are really excited to do it, and some people are really nervous. I've had people in previous workshops say terrified. So all of those things are valid. And if some of that is true for you, we've got some things that can help you, hopefully help you feel a little bit more confident about jumping into this really important part of your job search. So one of the things I want to share with you is just there's a quote here that I really like about networking. If you want to go somewhere, it's best to find someone who's already been there. So if you ever travel anywhere, do you ever, ask friends that have already been there, what are their best tips for what to do? Traveling through your career journey is very similar to that. And so there's lots of people who have gone this pathway, not maybe exactly what you've done before, but in similar directions. And so you don't have to reinvent the world. There's a great big vibrant world out there full of lots of people, and many of them are really willing to help. They're often flattered that you ask them. People like to talk about themselves. And then there's the other thing about like WGU alum tell us sometimes, somebody was there to give me a hand when I was going through this. I'd like to pay that forward. So there's lots of opportunity, to make those kinds of connections. So networking, I think a lot of people think about networking as, I need a job. You got one for me? Which is super awkward. And that does sort of generate a lot of those feels. And I would encourage you to think about it a little bit differently. One is that you are building mutually beneficial business relationships. And it may not seem when you're doing the asking initially that it's, how do you get to the mutually beneficial piece? The thing about networking is lots of things can happen, and maybe you can't return the favor right now, but you may be able to down the road. Or you might get into a conversation with a new network contact and they're really interested in WGU, and they said, hey, I'm considering it for myself or a child or somebody. You may be able to share some of your experience with them, which would be a benefit to them. Or maybe they're thinking about traveling to your city or moving to it where you live, and you may be able to share some information. Great quote. Thank you, Erin, in the chat. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. That's a wonderful reminder of some of the power of networking. Thanks so much for sharing that. So I will really encourage you, instead of the I need a job, you got one for me, start from a really, really a place of learning and curiosity about other experiences. And so the earlier you do it in your career journey, the easier it is. If you're not right now looking for a job, and you could start to connect with people to learn from them and explore their direction, that takes away the awkwardness about the ask about the job. and you're still doing it. If you've gone to somebody to learn about their experience and you've started that relationship, they know you're going to be looking for a job without you having to ask for it. So start from a place of learning and curiosity first. And the thing is with networking, it's about mindset, right? How do you approach it? You never know what might happen. And that's kind of one of our taglines around networking is lots of opportunities have opened for lots of people just because they asked for help in kind of an innocuous way, and it led to something incredible. So we want to encourage you throughout this workshop to be open-minded about these opportunities. We're going to share some things to help you be a little less nervous, maybe more confident, and give you some tools and some skills to move forward. So one of the things that's important always is understanding the why of what we're doing. And so I want to spend just a minute talking about why this is so important. Up to 80% of all jobs are found through networking. So if all you're doing is applying for jobs on Indeed or LinkedIn or Monster or ZipRecruiter, those big job boards, it's really a numbers game that's acting against you, because what happens is a lot of companies hire quite a majority of their roles through networking. So we've seen 40 to 80%. So that's why this is up to 80%. And so they don't even post those things on this public job board. So what's happening is you're seeing a subset of the jobs that are available at any given time. And that's where everybody goes to apply. So the competition for those jobs is, well, it's a simple math problem, higher, right? So networking really needs to be a cornerstone of your job search, and starting it early is going to just make it that much easier and that much more beneficial to you. So it's really important that you invest and just make it a practice as part of your professional career journey. So how do I do it? How do we do this? Basically, networking is making career connections and having career conversations. That's been traditionally called informational interviewing. Christy and I and some others in our office like the career conversations language, because that's really what we want you to be doing, is having conversations, learning from people and building relationships, and make it a little less of a formal sort of interviewing approach. But you want to be professionally prepared for them. So we're going to help you do that. So how do you do those things? How do I make connections, and how do I have these conversations? One is we recommend that you polish your brand. We're going to spend a few minutes on that. What does that mean? So that you're prepared to project that professional image that you want to out there. How do you generate leads and connections with people? How do I connect in networking activities, and how do I prepare for those career conversations? We're going to cover all of that in our time together today. So let's go to the polish your brand. There's 4 things that we'd recommend. The things with the asterisks I have a couple more slides on, but just briefly, your elevator pitch is that thing we want to encourage you to have prepared. That's a minute or 2. And that's kind of the answer for if you happen to be at a professional conference, you step on an elevator with the hiring manager or a CEO of a company that you're really interested in, and you're the only one in the elevator, and you introduce yourselves and what's your answer to, hey, Heather, it's nice to meet you. Tell me about yourself. So rather than just winging it, having an elevator pitch prepared can help you be really ready for those kinds of conversations. So I'm going to show you a sample outline for an elevator pitch on the next page, on the next slide. Another thing you want to make sure is in place is your LinkedIn profile. Over 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn at some point in the hiring process. So you want to make sure that's up to speed. Remember those other workshops that I pitched at the beginning when we got started, there's one on developing a powerful LinkedIn profile that can help you really brush that up and look very professional. Resume, cover letter, and portfolio, if that's appropriate for you. We also have support through our office about how to sharpen and polish those things up. So be sure you watch for those. And you don't have to have those all done, but you want to have them in decent shape in case somebody says, oh yeah, I'd be happy to talk to you, shoot me your resume over. You don't have to be scrambling and putting something together. So start working on getting those things in shape so that you can, finalize them if you need them in a rush. And then finally, business card. If you want to have a business card, they seem to sort of die down for a while. They're coming back and there's digital business cards, but I'll show you a resource that you can use for that as well. I will just say quickly, we have a career champions program with some of our faculty mentors participate, and one of ours said, If you're going to have a business card, make sure it's really neat and readable and professional, not anything like pink or sparkly or scented or whatever. And if you have, and watch your personal email, if you have an email that's funny, you might want to set up something that's a little more professional. But I'll show you a resource for business cards in just a couple slides. All right, that's polishing your brand. Try to attend to all of these things. You'll be pretty ready to start stepping out in your networking world if you attend to these things. The elevator pitch, I promised I'd show you just a quick sample script. This is just an outline. It's a little bit formal, but these are the kinds of things that you want to be including. Again, if you want to take a screenshot, that's great. You'll get a copy of this video so you can refer back to it. A few things that you want this person to know, and connecting with them about how your experience, your interest relates to their work, if you know about what that is. And then see if you can find a way to follow up with them. Christy just dropped a resource in the chat. It's a LinkedIn Learning video that you have access to as a WGU student or alum. You have access to LinkedIn Learning. If you don't know that, this is one of the best short videos we've seen on how to develop an elevator pitch. So we'd strongly recommend that you watch that. Okay, that business card, just a pro tip here. FedEx does have a 24-hour business card turnaround. It's got supports to help you design them. So we've got a link for you on that as well. And so if you want to have a business card, this is a really easy and relatively inexpensive way to get a few of those in your hands quite quickly. All right, so that's the polishing your brand piece. Now we're going to move to how do I actually build a network and start to generate leads. All right, we have some new resources for you here at WGU. There's a whole section on expanding your connections, and we'll show you that in a few minutes. But in that, there is something called the networking toolkit. And this page is something that will be really useful for you. Christy just dropped a link in the chat for the networking toolkit. I think this is maybe the second page. And so if you download this to your computer, save your own copy, you can fill this in. So this is an opportunity for you to, one of the networking tenets is start with who you know. So I've had some sort of amazing conversations with WGU students and alumni talking about something that they want to do, and actually had one not too long ago where I was working with a student who was interested in going into HR and was trying to think about who they knew, and we talked about it for a little while, and finally they said, oh, well, my mom works for the guy in her company that does HR, and I said, boom, that's your primary networking opportunity. Shit, I never even thought about it. So that's one of the things to think about. As we think about our family and our friends in the context in which we know them, we don't necessarily think about what their professional connections might be. So it doesn't necessarily need to be somebody you know who's working in HR, but somebody you know who's working with somebody or can connect you to that. Or if you want to go into data analytics, you might not have a cousin or a high school friend that actually does that, but they might be married to somebody who does that. So really stretch yourself to think about what your current social circle on the edges of it might actually help bring it. So this is a form to help you try to put those together and think about like what's the potential for them in terms of a high or low potential contact, and just make a commitment about how you want to reach out. Do you want to call them if you know them? Do you text them if you know them? Or if you need your cousin to introduce you, that kind of thing. So this is just a way to help you, give you some structure about thinking about that. And the other thing is just wherever you are, think about connecting with people. You have opportunities to make personal connections, in any kind of setting that you're in. Like, oh, maybe today here we are with some other people that are interested in networking. And so if you already have a LinkedIn profile, this is an opportunity for you to share your LinkedIn profile to connect. Now, we will say, just a heads up, LinkedIn has recently limited the number of personalized outreach connections that you can make to 5 per month. But if you have somebody that's already in your network, so if you just exchange, Chrissy, I think this is right. If you just exchange LinkedIn URLs and connect, that doesn't count against your 5. But if you're reaching out to somebody and adding a personalized connection, you just get 5 a month. So that is a kind of a pro tip. We're going to talk about LinkedIn in a few minutes. But to be sure that you Like make a tickler on your calendar, for example, and at the first of the month and do, just a recurring calendar invite to yourself that says 5 LinkedIn connections to try to make that commitment to continue to grow your network, to look for people that you specifically want to reach out to. All right, so I mentioned LinkedIn. We're going to talk about that in a few minutes, and Christy's going to do a demo for us on how you use a tool in LinkedIn that's really awesome. But first, we also want to just do a little pitch for Handshake, which is our internal job, employer, and events platform. Obviously, you went into Handshake to register for this event, and you probably have a little bit of an idea, but all of the things that you can do in Handshake, you can do research on jobs that you're interested in. There are employer events, and if you haven't attended those, it's kind of like this, a little different. They often come in and do informational events, and that would go something like, here's some information about our company, and these are the kind of roles that we're hiring now. These are the kind of candidates we're looking for with these kinds of qualifications, and here's our hiring process. That's a great way to connect with recruiters or representatives from companies, because you can come off mute, ask a question. They're probably going to remember your name more if you do that. You can send them a follow-up note. Again, that's a great way. If you're not sure how to connect with recruiters, Handshake's a really easy way to start to do that by attending some of these events. You can also follow employers. You can save your job queries. You can do a lot. It's not just a job board, but it helps you with research and connecting and your job search. So this is, we're going to move to, all right, we've already talked about who you already know. But we're going to move a little bit to how do you connect with people that you don't know. So LinkedIn is a prime tool to do that. And why is that so important? Look at these numbers. There's over 1 billion members worldwide. So it is truly a global platform. And if you're ever interested in doing anything overseas, somewhere else, this is a great way to start building a network to do that. Nearly 60 million companies are represented, and I think we didn't get this updated because it keeps growing. I think we're about 290,000 WGU alumni that are on LinkedIn, and that's a really easy, obvious pool of people to do research on and start to explore. And again, 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn at some point to manage their hiring process, finding people, vetting, and hiring them. So they're going to look for you on LinkedIn. So you do want to make sure that your LinkedIn profile is up to snuff. Again, I'm going to make that pitch for the developing a powerful LinkedIn profile. It will really help you launch your LinkedIn profile very well if you don't have it, and polish it up if you have one. One of the things we talk about is how you increase your search engine optimization there, because we know how the back-end recruiter algorithm works. So just another pitch for that workshop if you haven't taken that already. So just a couple things you see there. There's a pro tip at the bottom. You can create a LinkedIn QR code. It's really easy. Chrissy dropped a link in the chat for how to do that. And another thing I want to say about this is we are now venturing from who I already know, which feels a little easier to do in networking, to people I don't know, which might be some of the nerves and some of that other stuff there. And one of the things I want to say is, like, Chrissy and I have had some interaction with one of the gentlemen who is a back-end developer for the LinkedIn alumni tool. And one of the things I heard him say recently is there's this really interesting theory of loose ties. And it was developed, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, about like how can your looser connections help you. And he said that LinkedIn did a study of 20 million profiles, and it determined that people that are more on the edge of your social network tend to be more productive for you in making connections. And why is that? Because the people that you know most likely know already some of the other people that you know. Whereas if you go to the edge of your social network, you're probably going to tap into a bigger context of social network. And so if that gives you any comfort or confidence in reaching out to people that you don't know, we're going to show you how to do that with WGU alumni, so you at least have some sort of a tangible connection with them. That if that helps propel you to have more confidence in those, I think it's important to remember that it's pretty significant research that LinkedIn did to help demonstrate that the people that you barely know or don't know, or you're just tangentially tied to, like we both went to WGU, may actually, one of those people may be one of the people that gets you connected with your dream job and a career path that is just incredible. So we're going to move to the LinkedIn Alumni tool. Chrissy's going to take over and drive here and show you how to use that tool.
Thank you so much, Dorothy. So I do want to say, when you're talking about the outskirt connections, I actually networked with you, Dorothy, before I started at WGU. So I always think about that. And now we're close connections, but definitely they can provide a lot more insight. So I popped in the chat a few of the, a few links that are associated with the LinkedIn Alumni tool, and hope you all can see my screen, but this is what it looks like. This is the tab right here, Alumni, and I apologize, my voice is a little hoarse today. And this is the new updated number. I have 290,000 alumni at WGU that I can search through, which just makes it such an efficient way to find and connect with industry professionals that are in your targeted area. So for the purpose of this demonstration, I just kind of want to show you around a little bit. Up here, there's these two carrots so that you can, go right and left to see the filters. You can start just by searching immediately. I'll do a software engineer for the purpose of the demo. I'm targeting, this would be for those of you who are targeting a specific role. When I hit enter here, it's going to really quickly find those alumni. There are still 12,000 alumni in this search. So you can actually filter through these, where they work, where they live, what they do, what are they skilled at, what do they study, and then how you are connected. So I want to look at, I think some of the ones that I usually add in my search is going to be where I live. So I'm going to say Texas. I know Texas is a big state, but just want to kind of show you how these filters work. Now there are 1,400, and honestly, I think that is still too large to be manageable. So you may want to filter it down. So what you can do if you're targeting a company, you can actually target. I'll do Amazon, but I want you to know though, if you just scroll, if you hit add, you can add any company you want. So I'm going to put in Google because that is what I want to target for the search and see who is out here. So now I have 7 people that I can look at that have filtered results that are going to be folks that I want to, to talk to. To see the actual people, you want to scroll down to the bottom here, and that would be the people you may know. So what you'll do is you're going to click on these individual profiles so that you can see what their profile looks like. The idea is you can actually learn a lot just by looking at their profile, honestly. I mean, check out this guy's headline. This is impressive. This is how people get to his site. You can find find all of their about me section, their top skills. You can look at their experience. They're currently working at Google, and you can see their career trajectory. So that's really nice too. You can see this person started as an IT support specialist, so held multiple positions to get where they are right now. The idea is if you are going to send them one of your personal connections to set up an informational interview, you really want to make it, you don't get very much characters, but you do want to make it very specific so that they are, asking them, they would love to connect you, to talk to you about how you started as an IT support specialist, something like that. But when you find something that's interesting, that piques your interest, what I would recommend that you do is to go and connect with them. That might not be the default. Sometimes it is, but if you hit more here, you'll see these options, and you can see I can hit the connect button. Now, I haven't used my 5 yet, I don't think, but you can add that personalized note, and you only have 200 characters, or you can actually send them a connection request. People are more inclined to have those personal connections. That's why when Dorothy mentioned the limit of 5, I really make sure that you're taking advantage of that. But when you've exceeded that, you'll send them connections. If they accept it, maybe because they see that you're part of the WGU community, you'll still then be able to send them a message once you're connected. So like I said, you can learn a lot just by looking at their profile, and maybe even get ideas on how to strengthen your own profile. I want to show you another search real quick here. So I'm going to clear this, and I'm going to, if you're not sure where to start, you can say your degree title. So I'm going to say accounting, like a BA in accounting, and see what happens. So now I've got 1,400 that use the same terminology. Again, I have those same filters. Let's say I want to look at the 157 individuals that are working or that have that in their profile that are in California. And then right away, I can see here's a business data analyst. So that seems interesting. I'd love to chat with them to see if that's where I'd like to take my, where I would like to take my accounting degree. So it's a really powerful tool, and there's a lot of advantages to finding people quickly that are relevant in your field. And I would say be creative in your searches. I had an appointment with somebody recently that was a cybersecurity professional who was leaving the pharmacy profession, and he actually found about 13 individuals that he was able to kind of connect with, and they joined the cybersecurity club, and they're all pharmacists changing careers from pharmacy to cybersecurity. So even though you think your story is unique, with such a large pool of people, you're going to find connections that will be meaningful for you and will help you in your career. Did I leave anything out, Dorothy?
Nope, that sounds pretty good. I am going to drop another resource in the chat. This is a little bit longer demo if you want more information, but that's another little video that you can watch after we're done today. Okay, so we've talked about polishing your brand. We've talked about building your network and generating leads. And so we're going to go back to how do I actually, how do I find networking activities? So we have another new tool that we've just developed recently. This is a screenshot of something in our networking activities book, and Christy will get that, drop that in the chat for you. And these are just some ways to think about different opportunities that you can look for ways to connect with people and have these kinds of conversations. So each one of these is described in some detail in the networking activities handout that Christy just dropped in the chat. Gives you some ideas about how to go about that, and there's some other links in there. One thing I do want to make a pitch for quickly, though, is that I think a lot of people don't think about the volunteering opportunity. A lot of people think about volunteering to try to gain experience, but it's a great way to network, and contribute to your community and be a good human and all of that kind of stuff. But again, remember what I said in the beginning, you never know what might happen. You might be working in a, soup kitchen somewhere and slopping mac and cheese, and the person next to you serving salad, and they may be somebody who works for a company that you're really interested in following. So don't forget about volunteering, spending a couple hours here and there to help your community, but you may find some really valuable network connections that way. Okay, so we're going to move now to how do I actually have these conversations? How do I prep for them? And we'll get into that, but I want to spend just a quick minute talking a little bit about the why behind these career conversations. You see, on average, 1 in 12 of these, within 12 of these conversations, you'll have a job offer on average, okay? This is a statistic that LinkedIn has compiled, and it's been steady for years and years and years. So while that might feel like a lot right now, if you are starting, if you're early, especially if you're early in your degree and you are working on building this, you will have had the opportunity to have a number of these as you are nearing the completion of your degree. And why is this? Remember that stat I was talking about before, about up to 80% of all jobs are hired through networks in various companies. That's not true everywhere, certainly. We're not saying don't apply to the job boards, but that shouldn't be the only thing that you can do, because statistically you're far more likely to land a job through a network connection than you are through, tons of applications on some of the job boards. And that's also been a statistic that's been very steady over years, maybe decades, I'm not sure, but I've been hearing that for a long, long, long time. So what is happening in these conversations. You can do research, you can connect, you are job searching, you're doing all of those things. You can do it through a variety of things. You don't have to be in person. You know, you can do lots of things virtually now. You can learn a lot about a job or an organization. You can check out career ideas that you're considering, and you find maybe a WGU alum who graduated in the same degree you're in, and they're on a path that you're sort of interested in, but you're not really sure about. They may be willing to have a conversation to help you understand more about what that's like. You sometimes find out about career job titles and pathways that you didn't even know existed. You may be able to connect with decision makers. So if you are having a career conversation with somebody and they may say, you know, you should talk to my manager, that's great, right? So one of the things we want to build into reinforcing for you today is that you always want to ask the who else question when you're connecting with somebody, to say, is there anybody else that you'd recommend that I connect with? That's the way you really begin to deepen your network to opportunities that you may never have you may not have access to discover otherwise. The other thing that's happening during this is you are developing your professionalism, you're building confidence in yourself, you're practicing, you know, some of those interviewing skills by having these conversations. And it really demonstrates your initiative and your motivation to potential employers. So, and the great news is you don't have to be an extrovert and go to an in-person event and stick out your hand and shake it out. I mean, as I said, you can do a lot of these virtually. So how do you actually do these? It's several steps, 4 steps. I'd say the first one is obviously you're going to do the research about the company or the professional or the industry that you're looking at and identify the people you want to connect with. And again, the LinkedIn alumni tool is a great way to do that. And then after you've done some outreach and made a connection, for people that you're really interested in having conversations with, you reach out to them. And so you do want to be intentional about timing. We do recommend that you try to do these early before you are applying for jobs as much as possible, because then you already have a connection. It's a little harder after you're applying for a job and you're trying to reach out to somebody, because it just introduces a little bit more of that awkwardness in. So start early. And then send those invites and confirm the details, obviously, and be sure that you have your questions prepared, just in case somebody says, sure, I've got time this afternoon. You want to be ready to go, not scrambling. So that's part of your preparation, is really what you'll find out from this individual. We'll talk about questions in a few more slides. We've got some outreach messaging samples that we're going to show you on the next 3 slides, and some resources that we can send out to you. But basically what you're trying to do is customize your message and tell them a little bit. That's your elevator pitch, can help you prep for that. But then you want to, if possible, see if, you know, if there's a connection or a point of interest that you have with that professional, to identify why you're reaching out to them, why you're interested in them, and let them know that you're interested in getting their advice and input, that you're not asking for. You do want to make an ask, you know, can we, is there a way that we could arrange to have a conversation? That might be just over, for example, the LinkedIn chat. It might be a phone call, it might be video, could be in person. All right, let's look at some of these messages. I'm just going to show them on the screen. Again, if you want to take a screenshot, great. Again, you're going to get the video recording. Here is one sample outreach message. Some of these are a little bit formal, but it gives you a framework and a place to start to develop your own. So that's one. Here's another one that does specifically say, I'm not expecting to discuss a particular, employment opportunity. Sorry, I hit my mouse there. But so that's a little bit of a different approach. I'll give you a second if you want to take a screenshot there. And then the third, this was actually, I mentioned one of the gentlemen that was on the back end development of the LinkedIn alumni tool that Christy and I have had some interaction with. And he and his partner suggest something like this that's more formal, might be more your style. So that is also an opportunity if you'd like, and it's shorter, which is great. So that gives you a couple different, 3 different approaches that you can take as you reach out to people. So I remember I said, be ready with your questions. Do you want to talk about that a little bit? Like, what do I ask? So we have a couple of resources that can help you with different kinds of questions that you can ask. But really think about what it is that you want to learn from them. And here's a few prompts that may be helpful for you. How'd you become interested in the field? Finding out about strengths and challenges is great to hear that from somebody who's actually in the field. Another one that's great, what are frequently used titles for your job? Because lots of companies title those roles differently. And so it makes it a little bit harder to search. But if you get this kind of information from a network contact, that's great information to use to come back to the LinkedIn alumni tool and search for WGU alum who are in those various titles, because it's probably for the same job. Here's another prompt that can yield some interesting information. What did you not expect when entering the field? What skills and certs are needed? You likely may know that from your research, but they may add some additional information. I think this one is a great one. What advice would you give your younger self early in your career? Can really prompt some things about, what would they do differently? What were the things that they stumbled over that maybe you don't have to remember? Somebody who's already traveled that path before you. You might as well not make the same mistakes, right? And then again, are there other people you'd recommend or other resources to access? Always, who else, what else is good too, but who else is really where you want to focus in terms of broadening and deepening your network? So you've developed your questions, you've arranged for your conversations. As you get ready to have them, if you are on video or going personally, you want to dress professionally so that you are projecting that professional brand. Be positive. Remember, I mentioned in the beginning, networking is about mindset. So think about being positive, about just establishing a connection. Be prepared with your resume or LinkedIn profile and take a deep breath and, decide you're going to enjoy it. We'll talk about nerves in just a minute too. But as you get into the conversation, your introduction, again, that elevator pitch can help you with preparing this. Keep it short. You don't want to spend a long time going into that, but just enough so they understand a little bit about your background and where you're going, and be sure that you're not, you may mention, I'm going to be eventually looking for a job right now, just exploring some things. Be really curious about your connections experiences and what they bring to it, and be sure that you show your appreciation and thank them at the end. Send a follow-up email that gets or some kind of a thank you. That is, you may want to check with them to ask if it's okay if you have follow-up questions. Usually people say, oh, let me know if you have any more. You do want to send a follow-up thank you, just because one thing is that gets your name in front of them again. And then finally, consider offering to reciprocate. Remember that mutually beneficial business relationship piece. This is an opportunity to offer to reciprocate, and you may not have anything, especially if you're a career starter, for example. You may not feel like that, but you can simply say, I really appreciate your time. If there's ever anything I can do to return the favor sometime in my career, I'd be happy to do that. Even just making that statement shows, your willingness to help them out if that's appropriate at some point. All right. In the beginning, when I was asking, what do you think about, what do you feel about when you network? There was a little bit of nervous in there, and that is a really common response to networking. So I just want to spend a minute talking about a couple things that you can do just to increase your confidence and lessen the anxiety a little bit. One of our wonderful mentors here at WGU said, I just tell my students, just do it afraid. Be like Nike, just do it. But start small. Take one step. Commit to yourself soon that you're going to take one small step for networking. It might be adding people to your LinkedIn profile. It might be reaching out to, that cousin to see if they'll introduce you to their partner or a high school friend, or one thing just to get you going. Because the thing is, you're going to learn from it, and it's just going to get better every time you do it. So some other things are, you might want to, if you get really nervous, utilize some mindfulness techniques. Like, for example, some people like choosing an anchor, like a picture of something that's a goal or something that's meaningful to them, or you have something in your pocket like a coin or a stone or something like that you can reach in and just touch if you feel like you're getting nervous, just to anchor you to what you're trying to do, something that's meaningful to you. Sometimes visualizing things, how is this, what's the outcome here that I would love to have, or maybe it's that sort of long-term goal, like I have this great dream and I want to get there, and I'm just going to hold that in front of me during this conversation. So I remember why I'm there and I'm in this conversation to reduce my nerves. Sometimes writing down your intention can be really useful. And also just recognizing self-talk, like, oh man, I really blew that, probably isn't your most helpful friend in these situations. And just try to, really think about everything as a learning experience. It's going to get better next time if you just start. Probably my strongest piece of advice in terms of addressing nerves is be more interested in them than you feel like you have to be interesting to them. If, again, what I said in the beginning, if you start from a place of learning and curiosity, that then it's the questions will come. And it becomes easier to have those conversations rather than feeling like you have to sort of sell yourself to this person. Just you really want to get them talking, and that's what this is really all about. You can certainly share information about yourself, but get curious. It's going to make these just go more smoothly, I'm sure. So a little bit about follow-up. I recommend that you have a little buffer in your schedule afterwards so you can take some notes, jot down what you learned, and again, check in if you can ask if they're okay with you sending up follow-up questions. That's great. Do send a thank you note, as I mentioned, reiterating your, thanks to them, getting your name in front of them again, appreciating having the relationship. That might also be a place where you could offer if there's anything I could ever do for you, be happy to do that. Please don't hesitate to reach out, kind of thing. And then just really, once again, touching base with that mindset. Consider everyone in these conversations as a learning opportunity. You might have some stumbles in the beginning, but just do it. Be like Nike. It gets better. The more you do it, it just gets easier. If you have any last minute questions, we're going to wrap up here in a minute, but not quite yet. Don't leave, because we do want to encourage you to think about your next step. I mentioned that a few minutes ago. Right now, we want to encourage you, based on what we talked about today, what you learned today, what step will you commit to yourself to taking in the next week, in 7 days, to invest in your own network? All right, we have some things coming in. Create a LinkedIn freshman here. That's awesome. Way to get started early. Improve my LinkedIn profile to highlight skills and experience. Great.
Connect at least 10 people at my Edge of Connections or WGU alumni at companies I'd like to work at. We've got one that's create more substantive posts aside from reposting, send out more connection requests, find new banner picture, lots of good stuff here. Someone's going to reach out to their existing network, friends and family to see if they have any unexpected connections. I love all of these. We're always networking, right? I mean, whether we're in the grocery line at the store waiting our turn to be checked out, or meeting people in passing. So these are all really great.
All right. One more tip. You may want to find a Post-it note or something and write that down, stick it on your computer just as a reminder, or put something on your calendar, a tickler for a couple days to say, did I do my networking thing? Just to create some accountability for yourself. Remember, that first step is usually often the hardest one. Take one small step, just start. You never know what might happen. We just want to make sure that you know how to get in touch with us in this variety of ways. Again, here's this email that I mentioned in the beginning. We also have a message line that you can call and leave a message. We'll try to get back to you within 4 business hours. And we have some other ways to get in touch. If you haven't seen the drop-in hours where you registered for this workshop, you can also register for drop-in hours. That's like if you were on a brick and mortar campus and you stopped by the Career Center to ask a question and left. That's not presentation. Is just a way to come in and ask a question if you need to get in touch with a career advisor. All right, everybody, thanks so much for coming. Christy, any last words?
Thank you so much, guys. And hopefully you'll make lots of great connections that will lead to, insight and maybe even a job offer.
Let us know if you need any help. We're here to help, and good luck getting out there and just doing it.